as the two of you got down to the floor to draw blueprints of a house from memory on everything from newspapers to the backs of envelopes and road maps of the United States that happened to flap in the other room in a midnight wind. I think the poet is here using the figure of speech called hyperbole. Certainly something like that must have happened. But the poet is making a comprehensive attempt to exaggerate for the sake of effect. And what does he say? The two of you, the wife of the poet and her brother, got down to the floor. They were sitting on chairs. They got down to the floor to draw blueprints of a house. Blueprint means sketch, plan, the plan of a house, the plan of a building, printed on light sensitive paper, which was traditionally blue. Building plans were printed on light sensitive paper, which were usually blue in color. They were known as blueprints. Of a house from memory. My God. They're drawing the sketches of the house. They're drawing the blueprints of the house from memory. They have nothing else to refer to. On everything from newspapers. And on what do they draw the blueprints? On everything. From newspapers to the backs of envelopes. Used envelopes. Envelope is fine, but I think envelope is better. Envelope is a paper cover. And road maps of the United States that happen to flap. Flap means fly up and down, move up and down. I think the more appropriate word here would be flutter. To fly unsteadily, to move unsteadily in the air. In the other room, in the midnight wind. As I said, the figure of speech used here is hyperbole, exaggeration. In fact, hyperbole is one of the favorite figures of speech of A.K. Ramanujan. He uses it in poem after poem. And much of the success of Ramanujan's poems comes from the skillful use of hyperbole. You wagered heirlooms and husband's earnings on what the uncle in Kuwait would say about the bathroom and the well and the dying, by now dead, tree next to it. This is also an example of the poet's use of hyperbole. You wager. To wager means to bet, to risk an amount of money or something valuable in an argument. If you win the argument, you get it. If you lose the argument, your opponent gets it. You wagered heirlooms. Heirlooms are valuable things that are passed from one generation of the family to the next. What the heirs get from the ancestors. And husband's earnings. You are prepared to risk heirlooms, prepared to risk all the money earned by your husband. On what? The uncle in Kuwait. What is the issue? There has been a shift in the issue. What the uncle in Kuwait would say. The original issue was where the bathroom was in the backyard. Whether it was north of the well or south of the well. Now there is a significant shift, and the current issue is not whether the bathroom is north of the well or south of the well, but what would be the opinion of the uncle in Kuwait on the matter. And the woman is prepared to wager heirlooms and husband's earnings, on what the uncle in Kuwait would say about the bathroom and the well. This is even more dangerous. Whether the bathroom is north of the well or south of the well can be located by a physical verification of the site. But now the issue has become significantly different. What would be the opinion, what would be the view of the uncle in Kuwait on the matter? Would he say that the bathroom is north of the well or south of the well? Even if the bathroom is north of the well or south of the well, and the uncle says something which is wrong, well, that is the issue. On what the uncle in Kuwait would say about the bathroom and the well and the dying, by now dead, tree next to it. The tree is, of course, the jackfruit tree. In your father's house in Aleppo. Aleppo is now known as Alappuzha. The speaker's wife and her brother James, are now involved in a furious debate which seems close to culminating on a very dangerous wager. The poet does not seem to understand what he sees. He finds the whole thing bizarre. He is bewildered by this activity of his wife. I think that the lines convey the strong sense of exclusion that A.K.Ramanujan feels in relation to his wife and the world inhabited by his wife. A.K.Ramanujan rebelled against his own Brahmin identity, against his own Hindu identity. And he married a girl who did not belong to his caste, who did not belong to his religion, who did not share his mother tongue, who did not come from the geographical area from which he and his family came. At the end of the day, probably A.K. Ramanujan finds himself excluded completely from the world inhabited by his wife. And I think that this exclusion is symbolically conveyed through these lines. These lines narrate how the speaker is bewildered by the bizarre activities in which his wife involves herself. That is a very acceptable interpretation on a literal plane. But I think there is a more profound symbolism hidden in these lines. These lines convey the sense of exclusion, the sense of painful exclusion that A.K. Ramanujan felt in the latter stages of his marriage, a sense of exclusion in relation to the universe inhabited by his wife. He found himself a complete outsider vis-a-vis the world inhabited by his wife. And it is this exclusion, this sense of exclusion, this sense of being an outsider that is symbolically conveyed through these lines.